to start, sir?
Oh, absolutely.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the press conference for the closing film of the 53rd edition of the International Film Festival of India. We have with us the director and Polish maestro, Krzysztof Zanussi. He is the director of the film The Perfect Number, which is the closing film, and also happens to be a contestant in the international competition. So before we get into the synopsis of the film and an intro, I'm sure Sir does not require an intro, but even then, we'd like to play the trailer. Can we have the trailer for The Perfect?
To jest losowy ciąg Fibonacciego. Jego losowość zasadza się na tym, że za każdym razem możemy rzucić monetą. I jeśli wypadnie orzeł, to dodajemy, a jeśli wypadnie reszka, to odejmujemy. Teolog powie ci, że w tym jest ślad Boga. W tym? A matematyk jedynie liczy. Reszka. Czy za tym wszystkim ktoś stoi? Czy jest tylko chaos?
Przecież całe życie to hazard. Ryzykowałem czasem wszystko, co miałem.
Czy cokolwiek w życiu jest sprawiedliwe? Czy nagryzani są szlachetni, a karani niegodziwi?
Jeżeli jest jakiś potem.
So the Polish film, Perfect Number, like I said, is the closing film for the 50th edition of the Film Festival of India. And we have the director, Krzysztof Zanussi here. I'm pretty sure that Sir needs no introduction because he has been a regular at film festivals all over the country and all over the world.
Right.
He has also won multiple awards, multiple Palm d'Ors. You name a festival and Sir has probably won that particular festival. We were having a chat prior to this press conference here, and he was just telling me that he has made close to 40 trips to India. And pretty sure he has seen more of our country than most of us here. And so since this is the closing film, and since most people have not really seen it yet, I don't really want to reveal much of the film. It is about a young mathematician who meets his long-lost cousin, who is wealthy, and this meeting sort of changes both their lives in various ways. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, that's correct.
Yeah.
But I would like to make a reference that it is inspired by a real person. There is a mathematician in St. Petersburg, Russian Jewish, who got an award of $1 million, like Nobel Prize, but it's not Nobel Prize. Still, he sent back the check saying it is distracting him, and he doesn't want to be distracted. So I think it is quite remarkable nowadays that after centuries of running to be richer, running after money, maybe where humanity is becoming mature, to understand that having, possessing, is not essential, that we have other problems which are probably more important and more interesting. And I'm a physicist from my first studies, so I come back to the beginnings and try to present a question that has been present in philosophy of, I think, all civilizations. In my European civilization, it was Blaise Pascal who asked the question, is there something or nothing? And Dostoevsky, Fyodor Dostoevsky, said there is only one relevant question in the world. It is, does God exist or not? Unfortunately, in the name of God, there were so many crimes committed that maybe sometimes it's better to say absolute or to say mystery, because it means the same, but it's not loaded by all these wrongdoings. And that's more or less what is this film about. I try to signal that there are problems which are not necessarily linked to the material world, that there is maybe another reality beyond it, and that science is not denying it anymore. Since we have quantum physics, we realize that all this Newton era is over, and all these things which were so certain in 19th century are not certain anymore. This is all now in big question. And maybe that was the impulse why I made the film. It is co-produced by Israel and by Italy. Minoritarian co-producers, but have to be mentioned. And you know, as you know, mathematics is something what is very popular among Indian, Jews, and Greek. So it is a right way to combine it.
Right, sir. So if the trailer wasn't enough, I'm pretty sure his description of the film would have added to the excitement and the wait to watch it. Before we go into questions from the audience, I'd just like to ask a theme that is common for most of your films is this sort of contradiction between the values of, let's say, faith and science.
Yeah.
And this seems to be at like the highest point of that sort of contradiction at this point, because you have a mathematician, you have certain values that are drawn from religion. So how has that journey been? Like, do you have a stand in this particular debate?
Well, my stand is that the question is open, and we will never know for sure until we die if there is something after or not.
Okay.
I hope there is, but it's only hope. That is faith, and not, it can be proven. But I know how old-fashioned many are the ideas of people who were believed to be progressive. This, what was meant progress 20 years ago, is not progressive anymore. We have to find a new definition of progress, or the new goal for humanity, at least to survive, because our existence on this planet is challenged because of ecological catastrophe that we are provoking, and because of the weapons we have created, and these weapons may be the tool of self-destruction. Human being is self-destructive, unlike other animals. So this is something what bothers me a lot, and probably this you will find in my film. I try to put it there, and my concern about future of the world, about what to do to be sure that humanity will grow. I don't want to see transhuman creatures, because then I will be an inferior creature, and these new creatures created by genetic engineering may be a substitute of human being. That's a frightening perspective, but we must have a clear idea why we consider this is wrong. Or we have to say, after dinosaurs, humans will be also extinct, and we will look on the world populated by some different creatures.
Okay, that's pretty deep. So with that, I'd just like to open the floor for questions. Would anybody have any questions for Mr.? Yeah.
Through your films, what do you want to see or what do you want to search? Please.
Well, I am in a permanent quest for sense, because either the reality that surrounds me is totally chaotic or senseless, and sometimes when I am on the edge of despair, I am afraid this may be true, or there is a hidden sense and we are only partly blind and don't notice it. And that's my hope.
So in a way you are searching the reality, real reality or something.
Yes, but this reality is beyond material reality, which I can see with all my senses, and which traditional physics was able to describe in Newton times. But remember, Newton is buried.
Anybody else?
By nature, are you yourself religious or not?
Yes, in a way, yes, I would say. In a way, because everybody is religious on his way. I don't want to be taken for a devote. I'm rather not. But yes, I am brought up in Judeo-Christian tradition, and I think this tradition brought us to a great growth of humanity, and it has still some potential, but it doesn't need to deny other civilizations that also arrived to a certain point of development when we can maybe merge in a way and be supported by other experiences of other continents. As you see, my protagonist, you have seen it for a second, being maybe Christian, but exercises yoga all the time.
Do you think the cinema can, in any way,
Cinema?
cinema, films,
Yes.
can change us a little bit?
Oh, sure. Sure, they formulate our dreams. We have some intuition, and then when an artist has a good chance, he brings an idea that is expressing what we desire, because we don't really know what we desire nowadays. We knew what we desired in 19th century. We wanted welfare, we wanted education, we wanted social justice, but to some extent in developed countries, we already know how to achieve it. It is not achieved, but it's not a long distance goal. And now we have to think how to survive as human species. Because if we make our life too easy, we will perish. And we know it with animals. You know, I have 8 dogs, and I know they are all degenerate because they are fed, they don't fight for food. And in zoological gardens, you know that the wild animals become neurotic if they are fed regularly. You have to create them an obstacle. When they fight for food, then they are in good shape. So what humanity is going to create? A society of welfare when everybody will be fed by a spoon. It's lovely, I would love to be fed by a spoon, but is it good for humanity? Or maybe it is not. So how should we impose difficulties to be able to fight these difficulties? These are great problems of what kind of world we dream about. The world which is improving, first of all. We don't need to dream about certain status. We need to think about things which are not static, but which are dynamic. So, you know, when you're very poor, but get richer day by day, you feel very well. And if you are very rich and lose 1% of your wealth, you're depressed. It is idiotic because if you are a millionaire, you are still a millionaire. And finally, what is the difference to have 1 million or 10 millions? You cannot eat caviar every day because it's bad for your stomach anyway.
I think we have, yeah.
From the trailer, and in the trailer you have spoken about chance,
Yeah.
chaos, and impermanence. So, I think it is in lines with nihilism and existentialism, kind of. So, do you follow any specific school of thought, or it just occurred? It's your school of thought which you wanted to portray in this film.
No, I'm not illustrating or expressing any school. Of course, I was exposed to existentialism, but nothing to do with nihilism, just opposite. There is a very constructive existentialism. But we are talking about ontology, and even existentialists were not very strong on that field, about the reality of beings. Are there any beings other than material? And this is always an open question. And among existentialists, there were some Christians and some non-believers, like Albert Camus, who was, well, finally, he was almost a Christian, and he was at least somebody very deeply understanding the tragedy of human existence.
And you mentioned about humans or any other species should not be spoon-fed or anything. So does it, your statement can be survival of the fittest is the best?
No, at the moment I don't know what is the best, and that's why I open question. I am not ready to answer. There must be new generation that will formulate new dreams. I only know that all the dreams are unapplicable. We cannot live like that. We cannot live having all power in hands of corporates, and we cannot live with democracy, which becomes a beauty contest. You know, this is too dangerous, and we must find another formula how to govern 8, we say millions, you say lakhs, I think, of humans that are on this planet.
I think we have time for 2 questions. Yeah.
In the police cinema, you are one of the legends because Roman Polanski and Andrzej Wajda and you. So I just want to know, sir, how do you place yourself in this history or historical chapter of police cinema? I just want to know your opinion.
You know, all artists by nature are very egocentric, and this is not healthy. So I try not to look too much to the mirror. I know both of my distinguished colleagues. Fortunately, I like them both. It would be far more uncomfortable if I hated them, but I don't. And I think none of them hates me. I appreciate the versatility of talent of both my colleagues. I don't have such versatility as they do. I stick to the author film, which interests me most. But I appreciate what my colleagues did. And we're always showing some sort of solidarity in our life, because usually there was always a common enemy, and this enemy now is gone. But commercialism is also an enemy that kills a real message that can be in films.
We have one more question.
You can say about my query regarding our Satyajit Ray.
Well, first of all, Satyajit Ray was the first artist to open my mind to India. Rabindranath Tagore was second. But I know that Satyajit Ray's films were more understandable and more appealing to European audience than to Indian audience at that time. They were far away from popular cinema in India. And I know that Satyajit Ray suffered a lot because of that. But it was the same with my distinguished colleagues in Italy. After the war, they were making this neo-realistic cinema that was appreciated all around the world except Italy. In Italy, it was totally ignored. Nobody wanted, when they were getting rich, they didn't want to see the misery of being rich. And that's what neorealism was showing, what price you pay. And for that reason, I would say my relationship to my colleagues is really good.
One last question.
Sir, you spoke about not running after money, but then where do you draw the line? Because at the end of the day, making cinema also requires money. So,
well, I don't say money itself is bad, like matter is good, but you must not make money your idol, because then it paralyzes your life and your dreams. We now, in many countries, consider the basic payment for everybody, which is a very daring concept. I don't know when and if ever it will be applied, but robots should substitute most of the work. Only problem for us artists is to create a dream. What to do if there is no must of work, that we are all voluntaries and we work for satisfaction and not to earn money. Absolutely similar problem with sex. How to make life reasonable when sex is separate from love. What can we do? We must find some new scale of values and learn to live with it. Very daring. So then when such problems I see in front of me, I think, thanks God, there is a young generation, they will cope with it.
Do we have one last? Yeah.
Sir, I would like to ask you that, as you said, we need a progressive, to face this progressive tomorrow. Do you feel that this minimalistic approach, if this we all human beings, if we adopt this is going to help us for the so-called progressive that you are trying to talk?
Well, I think this minimalistic approach is quite attractive approach and a reasonable approach. And from all examples I watch, it's rather rewarding. But that's not a complete program. It is just one point. But to make your life well organized, you have to have a clear scale of values and see what is more important, what is less important, what is worth making sacrifice, and what is not worth making sacrifice. And definitely having a second car is not worth any sacrifice whatsoever. Better sleep longer and go for a walk, and don't waste your time, because you cannot drive two cars at once.
Okay, thank you, sir. With that, we will end this media interaction. I thank you for giving us the opportunity to pick the brains of such a distinguished author such as yourself. And perhaps, again, I'd like to end by saying that just like the trailer, I think any two lines of what he's just spoken now would be enough to get people to run to the theaters to see what he has to show. We are honored, sir, to have you here, and also honored to have your film. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting me again.